Hello everyone, welcome to Wonders of Watchdom. Today I'll be reviewing a Casio Classic, a watch I consider to be one of the world's best travel watches. I'll talk about the features that make this watch great, why James Bond would love it, and the two watches you should not take with you while traveling. All that coming up next. The reason the Casio WorldTimer is such a great travel watch is because it hits all the major criteria for being a great travel watch. For me, there's 9 reasons total. So let's waste no time, let's get started. The number one criteria for a travel watch for me is that I won't cry for more than 1 day if I lose it. I don't want to have to lose a watch and spend the rest of my trip regretting the loss of it and having it ruin my trip. Now, this is partially related to price, but not entirely. For me, if a watch is more than $300 or $400, I'd probably regret it for more than 1 day if I lost it. And I know people who have lost $10,000 watches on trips, and it not only ruins their entire trip, but ruins a month after coming back as well. So the watch has to be inexpensive. But it's not just that. It can also be something that's kind of unique and rare. I have this Tsar Nicholas II Vostok watch, which would actually be a pretty good watch for traveling because it's got an alarm built in. But it was difficult to find in good condition, and I still had to do a lot of work on it, so it has some sentimental value and it's a bit rare. So it's cheap, but I still wouldn't bring it on vacation with me because then I'd have to deal with the loss of it and having to try and replace it. The WorldTimer, on the other hand, sells for less than $25. Let me repeat that, less than $25. It's been around for years, it's ubiquitous, and if you lose one, you can always pick up another one. That makes it a great travel watch. Number 2, nobody will stalk me or cut my head off for it. I don't know about you, but I travel to some pretty dodgy countries in the world, and where the incomes are low and the crime rate is high, so the last thing I want is a watch that looks like a target. And then again, that's related to price, but not entirely. Earlier I did a review on the Orient Ray 2, which is an inexpensive watch, but it does look like an expensive watch. I would think twice about wearing this to some countries. And it's the same thing with the Invicta Pro Diver, the first review I did on this channel. It's an inexpensive watch, but from a distance of 5 feet or more, it can look like a Rolex Submariner. And you have to remember, of course, that in some of these low-income countries and low-income areas, they've never seen an actual Rolex, and it looks just like what they'd see on TV. So even though it's an inexpensive watch, again, it can make you a target. Even in first world rich countries, you can run into this trouble if you're wearing a Rolex, which, by the way, the Rolex Submariner is a watch I would not recommend you take on vacation. In places like Canada, Switzerland, Dubai, even in the USA, in places like Boston, New York, and Miami, there have been crime rings where men or women will meet you at your hotel, at the bar or the lobby or a nightclub, take you back to your hotel room, drug you, and steal your watch. That may sound like an urban legend, but it's real, and people have been charged for doing this. So unless you're on a business trip, I would recommend that you do not take your Rolex Submariner with you on vacation. Number 3, it has longer than a 2-year battery or service life. If it's a mechanical watch, most watches will, in fact all watches will fit in this category, being serviced longer than 2 years. But if it's a quartz watch, a lot of them have a 2-year battery life, and it's very annoying when you're on vacation. It seems like you never remember exactly when you bought the watch or when you last changed the battery, so you're on vacation and right in the middle of the vacation, the battery runs out and you need to replace it if you want a watch. I've been with people on vacation, and it's always annoying to have to take 2 or 3 hours out of your day to find a place where you can switch a watch battery instead of just enjoying your time. The Casio WorldTimer has a 10-year battery. lithium. So as long as you remember within a couple of years when you last replaced it, you'll be good to go on your trip. Number 4, the watch has to be tough. Now, I do a lot of different things on vacation, and I don't want my watch breaking when I'm using it. Casio watches are, of course, famous for being durable, and this one's no exception. This one has quite a beautiful looking stainless steel bracelet. It's hollow links, so it's nice and light, but it's quite durable. I've put it through a lot, and it's done well. It has a double push button deployment clasp, and it's just a very nice strap. The case on this watch is a plastic case that's painted to look to match the stainless steel color of the bracelet. And when I first got this watch, I have to admit I was a little disappointed. I thought that the case was stainless steel, and I was thinking I would gladly pay $30 or $40 more in order to get this case in stainless steel. And while I still think that's a good idea, I have actually discovered through my travels the benefit of having the case be plastic instead of stainless steel. So, with no further ado, let me demonstrate what that is. So first up in this demonstration, we have the Vostok Amphibia watch. Beautiful dive watch that I reviewed in an earlier video if you want to check that out. So that's number 1. And next up, we have this beautiful slim Swiss Army quartz, which is just a nice heavy, slim, well-made watch, and it's got a low battery right now, so it's doing that cool second-hand sweep thing it does to warn of the low battery. And finally, last but not least, we have the Casio WorldTimer, the subject of this video. I have this White's Classic 4 metal detector set to low sensitivity, the same kind of sensitivity you would find in an airport metal detector. So by now, I guess you've figured out what the benefit of the hollow links and the plastic case is. With this watch, you can stroll right through airport security without even taking it off. I've used this technique in the United States, Mexico, Canada, China, Taiwan, Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, and other places, and never had an issue. The only 2 places I've had an issue were in Tel Aviv, due to terrorism threats, and in Istanbul due to terrorism activity, where they have their sensitivity on their metal detectors cranked up. Everywhere else in the world, it's worked like a charm. Number 5, some lume or lighted display. Now, it doesn't really matter to me if the lume is magnificent, like on a mechanical watch, where it lasts for 8 hours. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be electroluminescent backlighting like on the DW290 Casio I reviewed earlier, which was nice. That would be a nice touch. But in this case, it's an inexpensive watch, it just has to work. This watch, the Casio WorldTimer, has a very simple old-fashioned mechanism, which is the light turns on 2 white lights on either side of the display to display it at night. Not as good as electroluminescence or backlighting for sure, but it does the job. Number 6. The watch has to be water resistant enough to do water sports. Now, for me, That means 100 meters water resistance and no push-pull crowns. There are a lot of watches out there that have push-pull crowns. Some I talked about earlier, like the Time X, has a push-pull crown. Sure, it's probably water rated for 100 meters when it just comes out of the factory, but after you've been wearing it for a couple years, maybe the lubrication have worn off. I've had instances where water or at least humidity gets into the watch after even a simple swim. So no push-pull crowns. That means no basic Seikos. That means no basic Timex. If you want to swim with it, 100 meters, no push-pull crown. So this one matches that ideal. It does have push buttons, but the push buttons are each sealed, and it has that stainless steel backplate with a rubber O-ring underneath. And I have gone swimming with it many times, and it does the job. So for simple water resistance, you can't go wrong with this one. 100 meters, and it works just fine. The next feature that's very useful for a travel watch, in my opinion, number 7, is a countdown timer. Most watches have alarms that you can set. So if you're waiting for a flight, you can set the alarm for when you need to leave. But I find the countdown timer more useful because if I'm sitting in an airport lounge or at a restaurant, I want to be able to look at my watch and at a glance see how much time I have left. And so for that, the countdown timer is better. Now, speaking of countdown timers, that reminds me of the second watch not to take with you on vacation, which is the Casio F91W. You may be tempted to go super cheap but reliable, and one of the most reliable cheap watches you can find online or anywhere is the Casio F91W. It sells for $15 or less. It's been around forever, since 1989. Simple resin, not waterproof but splash resistant, and it's just a great watch. However, I would not recommend taking this watch on vacation for this very simple reason, as explained by this photograph here. The Casio F91W is the one, and in fact the only watch, that Osama bin Laden has been photographed wearing. Al-Qaeda bomb makers like this watch because it's cheap, and they like the qualities of its alarm, and it's by far the most popular watch found on newly arriving inmates to Guantanamo Bay. U.S. Matrix of Threat indicator list, it's considered a suspicious item, similar to carrying large wads of U.S. $100 bills or a satellite phone. So, leave the black high-top sneakers and the Casio F91W at home, stick with the WorldTimer. It has more useful travel features anyway. One interesting little quirk about the Casio F91W, but should mention before I go, is that even though it's a very inexpensive watch, it's been around for so long and it's such an iconic watch that it's been copied by the Chinese in vast numbers, to the point where Casio had to do something to prevent counterfeiting. So when you press the right button on the Casio and hold it for a few seconds, it lists Casio in the display, and that's how you know that it's not a counterfeit model. Number 8, the WorldTime GMT function. When you're traveling, obviously, having the ability to have 2 time zones in your watch or more is one of the best features you can possibly have. You can set the one time for the time you're at, one time for the time you're arriving. Once you get there, you can have it for local time and back home, or whatever combination you like, but it's great to have 2 time zones. On the Casio WorldTimer, it's very simple because there's actually a map on the screen, and you just scroll across time zones and look at the map to see the zone you're in and have it line up to that zone. And just to be certain that you're in the right spot, it gives airport codes that match up to where you're traveling to. So if the airport code and the map lines up, you know you've got the right time zone. It's an extremely simple feature and easy to use, and for that reason I just love it. It's appropriately named as the WorldTimer. And number 9, a look that will not decrease my chances of getting my airline seat upgraded. I don't know about you, but I've discovered that when traveling, If I'm wearing a t-shirt, jeans, and a pair of sneakers, I will never get my seat upgraded. In fact, I may be downgraded or left behind. If you dress better, and if you have nice clothes, chances of getting your seat upgraded go up significantly. It's happened to me on several occasions. And so I want a watch that at least doesn't decrease my chances of getting my airline seat upgraded. The Casio WorldTimer, although it's not an expensive watch, does have a nice, clean, crisp look, a stainless steel bracelet, as I mentioned, and it's an aesthetically pleasing design. So overall, it's an excellent travel watch for having a nice, casual, yet classy look. So those are the 9 reasons why the Casio WorldTimer makes a fabulous travel watch. I've traveled all over the world with this thing, and it's been just fabulous. Now, one thing I haven't discussed yet that I promised I would was why James Bond would love this watch. One of the reasons I discovered this watch in the first place is because I was on a James Bond forum, and they were discussing this watch and the fact that the nickname for it is the Casio Royale, play on words from Casino Royale, of course. And they were talking about what James Bond would really wear. He probably wouldn't wear a Rolex Submariner because it'd be a pain in the butt to travel with, and it's a recognizable item. When you go through customs, people would constantly be asking you where you got it and asking to see your receipt. You'd have to take it off and have it inspected potentially, and it would be a noticeable item. If you're in a lobby and someone wanted to describe you, they'd say, the guy with the Rolex Submariner. Everyone knows that model and everyone's able to describe it. And so, if you're a spy, obviously, you don't want someone to be able to describe you by your watch. So the the Rolex Submariner would be out as a real spy watch. And that's where the Casio Royale comes in. It's got everything that James Bond would need. It's, as we mentioned earlier, can't set off metal detectors, at least not on higher or lower discrimination levels. And it's water resistant to 100 meters. It's tough, it's durable. It's got your countdown timer, it's got your alarms, it's got your world timer. It's got everything a spy would need. Hence the nickname Casio Royale. I should mention, this watch comes in several different styles. The style I have is the classic stainless steel looking case and black version, but it comes in other versions as well. There is an all black version of this watch, as well as a version with a round face if you prefer the round face look. And it even comes in a 3 time zone style, although I don't recommend that one because the 3 time zone version is the size of a dinner plate. But it's up to you from the other versions which one. I prefer this one, but the other styles are nice as well. So what do I think of this watch? Well, I think it's a foregone conclusion that I think it's a great travel watch because I've already traveled with it extensively and I intend to do more. It has all the features I need, and it just looks great. This is one of those amazing purchases where you can spend such an insignificant amount of money and get such a great looking watch. Every time I look down at my wrist when I'm wearing this one, I get a sense of satisfaction with how nice it looks and how aesthetically pleasing it is and how well laid out it is even. It's just a great looking watch for a great price, and I highly recommend it. Well, that's my review of the Casio WorldTimer. I hope you enjoyed it. There are many more videos to come, so please hit the subscribe button as well as the notification button, so when I put up a new video, you'll be the first to know. In the comment section, I have links on Amazon to the Casio WorldTimer and the products mentioned in this video, so if you want to support this channel, please order using those links. Otherwise, have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.